Commission City approved an ALDOT agreement to upgrade the existing traffic signal at North Oates Street and West Troy Street. This is here in Dothan. This comes after the city purchased a building on North Oates Street to create a new parking lot. The new parking lot will allow people to cross Troy Street to get to the courthouse, which is much safer. However, the light will need to be adjusted.
That gives us the permission to change out the signals there at that intersection. We'll be improving the signals there, having better pedestrian access to make it safer for everybody as they use that parking lot going to the county courthouse or to City Hall.
The light upgrades are expected to start next year.